Hey guys, Nick with the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, and I'm here to tell you about our latest sponsor, and that is Indy Wrestling Collectibles. You haven't heard of those guys? Oh, you know why? That's because they're making their big debut just a few weeks down the road at StarCast. That's right, Slowpoke Toys and Collectibles is launching a whole new line focused on indie wrestling collectibles, and we know our fans, that's what you love. You love indie wrestling. What their hopes are is down the road, they're going to help promote indie wrestling through sponsorships, advertising, vendoring, all that type of stuff. And like I said, you can see them for the first time right there at StarCast. But you know what? Maybe a sneak peek, some stickers, for the kids, pins, broken chairs, tables, barbed wire bats, even a sticker for your car to show your true love right there for independent wrestling on your car. And that's just the start. Down the road, we're talking more pin designs, sticker designs, magnets, shrinky dink stuff, plush toys, keychains, all of that good stuff. So you definitely want to make sure you give them a follow on their social media at Slowpoke Toys. And of course, make sure you check out the website, slowpoketoys.com, and get ready for that big reveal right at StarCast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Bud Myron.
Breaking news, folks. Wow. I never thought I'd have this episode.
Yeah, man. Tons and tons and tons of stuff, and we're going to get all into that. Before we get started, we don't want to, we want to remind this weekend is StarCast. All kinds of stuff coming up, and make sure if you're at StarCast this weekend, swing by, slowpoketoys.com, go by their vendor table, check out their indie wrestling collectibles. We had a pleasure having those guys be part of the broadcast here for the last couple of weeks, and we wish them nothing but the best, obviously, and we hope y'all get a great turnout there at StarCast.
And tell them Nick sent you.
Absolutely. Tell them the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast sent you, and tell them, hey, it's like I said, it's cool stuff. Go to their website, check them all out, man. But hey, while we're shilling shit, man, let's jump right into the shilling us.
Oh, yes.
Over on YouTube, right there on the YouTube channel at Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Yeah, look, I'm tired of doing the long web address. Just go there and search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. You'll find us. Make sure you're signing up, clicking the, liking it, subscribing it, turning on your notifications. And hell, we had a long conversation before we launched today and started recording about things that we're going to do, some new things, and, hey, look, we're going to shift. Should we get into all that before or at the end? We should save all that for the end. That's a tease. We call that a tease in the business. We're going to do that a tease.
Listen to the end to find out all the news.
Got to listen to the big announcements. Yeah, after all the stuff.
Ooh.
Because look, we, typically we go through the mailbag and we answer all these questions and, stuff like, look, there's one topic this week. Now, It has branches and it has forks all over the place.
And there's going to be a lot of opinion and a lot of what we think is going to happen.
Yeah. But obviously the big news was this past, I guess Friday. Vince McMahon announced he's retiring. He's leaving WWE, wink, wink. I don't know that I buy all that.
Now, he resigned.
He retired.
He resigned.
Yeah, he's, so we shall see. But we're going to do this in layers, Myron. Mm-hmm. We're going to go over a few things and then, we'll kind of build to the end, right? Okay. First thing I wanted to discuss before we kind of launch into theories and what we think and opinions, let's first go with this. Vince's legacy, right? I'll let you start.
Well, they've always said he held the territories, but we don't focus enough on what he built. Sometimes there would have been a WCW, there wouldn't have been an AEW, without him. Vince took wrestling from a regional sport, a territory sport that existed in pockets, and made it into a national sport. And
then international.
And then he cracked into the internet, and then he had a network, and he had the best top-rated cable television show of all for a long time, and still one of the better ones.
And people forget that, and that's what, because at one, there was a long stretch there, and I mean it's a long stretch. Raw was like not just like, oh, it was a top wrestling company. No, it was like the number one cable television product.
Mm-hmm.
And you look, it's like you said, man. When he went global, like, I think people don't understand that, like, when the regional territories failed, because they did, they failed. I mean, that's essentially what happened. Vince didn't kill them all. Like, did he help? Yeah, but they were in trouble. If Vince doesn't run that company to the point that wrestling becomes a proven commodity, that other networks. I mean, think about this. Spike took the gamble because you see what is happening in WWE, right? When they bring in Impact, TNA at the time.
Yep.
Turner, I assure you, TBS, TNT, TNT specifically in the beginning, you see the success of Raw and SmackDown. That's why there's an AEW on TNT/TBS, now.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the problem. I get it that, like, there's a lot of recent stuff, and then that we're gonna get into that at some point. Not like some places, but we are gonna go into it. But even with all of that, think about all of the people that he gave essentially a career.
Yeah.
Who went out of their way. There were people that, like, stunned me that actually posted in support of him. Like, when AJ Lee posted a tweet, I was like, what the?
I never saw that happening. Never could have predicted that. Some of the other ones, yeah. But her, no. Not with her husband.
Yeah, I mean, it's, her husband. But, maybe her problem, her husband's problem is more with Triple H than Vince. Who knows, right? It's debatable. But look, Paige was literally just and when I say let go, her contract ran up and they didn't renew it. So that's tomato, right? She was let go, not renewed, call it what you will. She posted. Nia Jax posted a while back. She was a Vince McMahon girl.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah, there's so many layers to it. I mean, even Chris Jericho coming to it. But lots of that stuff that kind of goes to show you how much loyalty these people have for him, and how much respect they have for him. And at the end of it, like, here's the problem. Sometimes we struggle, and this is not going to be a popular statement. I just don't think I can say it any other way. You have to take out the bad things, if you're only trying to recognize, like, in a vacuum of the achievements. Because here's my challenge. We don't have any qualms with taking, like, how many people, and by the way, I'm a fan, so don't take this that way. We put Michael Jackson on a pedestal still. We just forgot all that other stuff. And I'm not comparing one versus the other. That's what I'm going with. I'm just saying, take those events out, the current recent events of all the allegations and stuff, to sit here and go, he has to go down not only as the greatest, most influential man in wrestling, which he is. Anybody wants to have a debate with that, good luck, because you're going to be talking to a wall with me at that point. But he's also one of the most influential men in entertainment, like, especially cable entertainment when you think about it.
Yeah.
Period.
Pioneering cable entertainment.
That's wild. That's a wrestling dude, by the way, that we're talking about. Like,
yeah.
And it's, friend of the show, Gary Lamb, put it up there. With all due respect to P.T. Barnum and all those, the greatest showman on earth, right? The greatest promoter of all times.
Oh, yeah. God.
Has to be Vince.
Created WrestleMania. WrestleMania still is one of the biggest shows in the world. Right. And Vince created it.
They went from, like, putting his house up for mortgage or whatever, to literally being A
And
global event.
he forced wrestling into pop culture. That's what people miss out on. Vince made wrestling a part of culture in this country. And that was a great achievement. A
Yeah.
massive achievement.
So, that's his legacy part that we're talking about. But now that he's gone, now that he's retired, resigned, whatever, he's no longer at the helm. And listen, we were recording this on Monday, and part of the the thing that kept delaying was like more news kept breaking, so we were kind of having to change things as we were going along. So the question obviously is like, so what does this mean for creative now? Now, when I originally with these notes were made, there was a whole paragraph in here that's not here anymore because I had to take it out. There was this great hope that Paul Heyman was going to be the head of creative, right? So that's gone because what has happened since then, Byron?
Well, they've put Triple H in charge of talent and creative. So your HR guy is also your booker. I'm assuming Triple H will book by committee.
Well, there's always going to be a creative team.
Yeah, it won't just be one man's final oversight.
No.
Okay.
Well, technically, if he's head of creative, technically he'll be the buck that stops here.
Yeah.
But I think Bruce is, listen, this is all guessing. Bruce is going to run SmackDown. Like, he'll be the head writer on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And I always forget Ed's last. There's the guy that I can't remember. The guy who there's two guys that run Raw, essentially. So, whatever. So, they'll run those two, and but they'll have a team, and then they'll kind of funnel it up. And I think you're going to go more to seeing like everybody at the table, though.
Yeah.
More so, like an actual creative team environment. That's just what I hate. That's what I take from it. And look, if anybody, if you haven't checked out 83 Weeks, Eric Bischoff does a great breakdown of this, how he has nothing but like positive thought about like the creative process is just going to get so much easier, which should make it better and make it a less strenuous environment to work in.
Yeah.
And it's sense. That's with all due respect to Vince McMahon in that process, but he does do things that make the process difficult. Changing.
Well, he was the sum and the total last say on everything, analyzed everything down to the smallest bit, changed things. One person with that much power is probably not always the best for a creative process when we think of a creative process. I wouldn't want to be a Vince McMahon guy anymore and still be hired. I think some people, Dunn will probably fade out of the picture. I don't see Bruce Pritchard being there forever. I see.
I see. That's the thing. I think when it comes, like, because if we're focusing on creative, like, here's the thing. I think Bruce is a good fit because him and Stephanie kind of understand each. They were over the years. Apparently, Heyman and Stephanie have actually gotten to where they work well together. And not that she's really. She's co-CEO now. So she'll be working with Triple H, or he would be working with Triple H. I think the pieces of the puzzle are if you have a Heyman, Bruce, Pritchard. And listen, I get it. Like, I understand there's a lot of kickback and pushback on Bruce on social media and stuff. It's the cool thing to do. It's kind of like Vince was everything under the sun was Vince's fault. And I'm going to address about why that's a negative for somebody in a minute, but I just think that having those people at the table's a plus.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I really do. And they all serve their roles and all have their pluses and stuff I think that they bring to the table. But I do like Triple H being the head of creative in the sense of I think he likes long-term story. He's more of a, an old school wrestling guy. And everybody thinks that means, we're going to go back to no. I don't think that. Most people don't get that WWE's where it is because of the variety and the some of the other stuff they do that's entertainment. So they're not going to get rid of that. I think you may see more aspects of wrestling in there. So it's not. If you right now said it was 80-20, and I'm really stretching, do we get 60-40? entertainment wrestling versus, the other extreme. I'm all for, and people push back all you want to. I'm a fan that maybe Bischoff gets a run up there again. I don't think he would want it. Don't get me wrong.
Jarrett's there. Jarrett's already there. Think about that.
He's just head of live events, though, basically. I mean,
everything's
now,
everything's a live event.
No, he like house shows. They just call them live events, but
I don't. Sometimes I debate the positions and the titles these people are given because I don't know how much it means to what they actually do.
No, I got you. Yeah. Listen, the creative process as a whole should get better. I think we believe that because of the process. I just don't think you have somebody like, if Brock Lesnar, changes his mind and he walks into Vince's office and says something, Vince just goes, change my mind, and everything has to be redone. I just don't know that happens as much.
Now, did Brock Lesnar walk out? Is that what I'm hearing?
Listen, if he did, here's the thing. We overreact to every single thing, and everybody's got to be the latest and greatest in the news. And it was funny because somebody messaged me and was like, hey, are you going to do a special about the Vince thing on Friday? I'm like, how about I get through the weekend and find out what the hell happened over the weekend? I just would rather get a little more, details into what.
Well, hell, the shit changed this morning. I went to bed last night at a reasonable time. I slept half the day because I worked all weekend. And when I woke up, everything had changed.
Right. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm like, how about we I saw a clip off subject. There's a series or episode or whatever on I saw it on CNN called The 90s. There's one called The 80s. There's one so forth and so on, right? And it was funny. I saw a clip of Dan Rather, of all people, on like Larry King, and he's like, you'd rather be first than right when it comes to the news. And I'm just like, not him. He's saying that's what the problem with news was at that time.
Well, that's what it's got worse today.
And it's only become worse. That's the problem.
And wrestling news is the worst of all.
Yes.
Because there's always somebody there reporting on every single thing they see.
It's reporting
crazy.
Because someone who was there told somebody else who reported it, and it was the version through the perspective of one of the people that was there. So I'm like, it's not even always factual. Like,
imagine if that happened at indie wrestling.
Right.
Imagine how bizarre that would be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine like reports are written and they're from different people and they don't sound the same. Like, how crazy could that be, right? Yeah, shit happens. But listen, we're gonna discuss, the talents and how do we affect that. But before we do, I want to take a moment out to say, listen, we love some of our sponsors. AG1 has been a great one. Look, they've been here for weeks. And listen, people, I tell people all the time, AG1 is locked through us through like the fall. So like, if you don't like the AG1 ads, sorry, because they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So anyway, let's take a minute and hear from our friends over at AG1.
Our loyal sponsors.
Yeah. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted more energy and I wanted to see what was all the hype about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, even aging. I personally use it because when I started this keto fasting diet I'm on, I was worried about the energy I was going to have. Not now. It supports better sleep quality, recovery, mental clarity, even alertness. By the way, it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements that's in this thing. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews and even recommended by professional athletes. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements that you're looking to look out for your health. So to make it easy for you, Athletics Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit their website at athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, man. Well, listen, we're moving along, and so we're kind of through Vince's legacy, his creative, what now for creative. So one of the other questions becomes like, okay, so now that all these changes, we talked about it at the top. Triple H is head of talent relations. He's also head of creative. So to me, that opens up a huge door, right? Potentially. What now for talent? Right? The talent. What now, Myron? I mean, it could be a bunch of stuff, right?
I can't even begin to go where this goes because there are so many guys that were Triple H guys that are gone now, especially William Regal. And I mean, is Regal necessary for Triple H is long term goals? Sean's still there. That's good. Road Dogg is working Indy events in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. What do they do? What happens? Is he going to slowly reassemble his dream team he had before he had his heart? Is Triple H's health even capable of dealing with all the stuff he's going to be doing?
Look, we're going to come to the punchline at the end of this, right? I think there's a punchline for about this whole long term, and we'll get there. We don't want to spoil that. That's for the end. My question is, though, it's twofold. Like, there's a Triple H guy, but what if you're a Vince guy? I mean, like you brought up the rumors of SmackDown and Brock walking out or whatever. Brock's he's a Vince guy through and through. Let me ask you this, Myron. Roman, he was Vince's guy.
Oh.
Austin Theory, he was Vince's chosen one. You want to? I really want to gut punch a lot of people. What about John Cena? Nobody's even brought him up.
Oh.
Like, that was Vince's guy. I mean, he was the company guy. But it was one thing for Vince to call him up and say, hey, I need a favor. I need you back, for XYZ. If Triple H calls him, is he really loyal to Triple H? I mean, because you see what I mean? I'm like, do I think he's still going to do those things? Yes. I just think sometimes people underestimate the power. Think about this. You want my take? Taker never steps back into the ring now. Vince could have got him back into the ring because he said that on his documentary.
Yeah, I agree.
If the old man calls, he would go back.
Oh my God!
Look, I know he respects Triple H. I know they're good, they're friends and all that, and I totally get that. But I don't know that that team gets him back in the ring.
Well, you have to realize that team wasn't responsible for the Undertaker's creation. Okay, he was Mean Mark Callis and Texas Red. And he probably never would have made it off the indie gimmicks and working small time and working in territories. Vince made a career out of this guy, made this guy a millionaire.
I don't want to correct you, but I'm going to. Mark Calloway made a career out of that guy. Vince opened the door and gave him the opportunity.
He put him in the spot.
Exactly.
Though. Okay. And he put him in the spot on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. Yeah. Okay. He put him in front of everybody. Now, Mark Calloway did take the opportunity and make something of it, but Vince gave so many people an opportunity. You can quote in Regal's thing, where Regal said that he would even be alive. Vince gave him a life and a 20-year career.
Right. I mean, and what we're saying is like, I know the quick reaction was, social media went ablaze with, oh my God, all these people, Triple H's guys, and everything's going to change. And I was like, I mean, look, was he toting the company line? Possibly. But I seem to remember a quote a while back where Triple H was kind of like, no, he liked the college athlete that was raw and that was coachable and, didn't have all the bad habits. That came from him too. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of value. People don't want to hear that. And I get it too. Like, hey, this is, but the other question became about what about the guys that left? Triple H's guys who went to AEW, or elsewhere for that matter. Is this opportunities for, guys are going to get a chance because, it was Vince's fault they weren't getting pushed, et cetera, et cetera. Finn Balor, insert, name there. Does it open up the return of some of those guys that left, and does it open doors for guys who felt like,
I think we're in a crazy spot where people are like, oh, everything's perfect and rainbows and midgets are going to run around with lollipops, the Lollipop Guild, and everything is a yellow brick road of professional wrestling. Everybody's going to be happy in the future. And it's not. Triple H is a man with a job. He can't fix everything you saw as an injustice in professional wrestling. He has to maintain a product. Okay? He is not the guy. I love Triple H. Triple H has always been one of my favorite wrestlers, one of probably top 10 of all time. But he's not the guy that can solve all of wrestling's problems. No more than Tony Khan was the guy that could solve all of wrestling's problems. They're both in power, and wrestling still is going to have problems.
Yeah.
We'll see it in the future what happens, but I don't see a gigantic, riding of the ship of political correctness in professional wrestling and everything going back to where everybody's happy. It's wrestling.
Yeah. And look, we'll segue right into it when you're talking about these other companies. That was the next phase of it, because these two are kind of going to blur together, like talent, and then what about, how does this affect AEW, Impact, etc.? Insert all the other promotions in there. I'm not going to go through the rest of them. I think the funny thing is, what you mentioned, with Stephanie becoming co-CEO and with Triple H becoming head of creative and talent relations, this may be AEW's biggest challenge to date, because everything was essentially built, and I know somebody's going to try to correct me. It's just my opinion. This is the way I took it. AEW was essentially built as the original, anti-WWE company, the alternative. I don't know about all that anymore, but originally they were I felt like they were built out hey, we're going to bring in the indie guys and the wrestling guys, and everybody's going to get opportunity, and very anti-WWE. If you don't think so, listen to the promo where they can't stop negative talking about, WWE. They do. By the way, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because guess what? You always swing up. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But now, if Vince isn't at the helm, and it's Triple H and Stephanie, essentially, when you think about the powers that be at that point, you don't have the evil enemy anymore. You don't really, you got the company, but people didn't hate the company. It was like they hated Vince, what he was doing to wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say for a decade we've heard that Vince is out of touch?
Yeah.
And that he should walk away, and that Triple H and Stephanie were going to take over the company, and they were going to do great things with it. So if everybody's believed that for a decade, and essentially you just got everything you ever asked for, do you scream? When I say this is the biggest opportunity for WWE they've had in a long time, then they could capture momentum like crazy right now, because they just handed you everything you've screamed for on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Triple H is going to be the guy picking out the talents. Triple H is going to be the guy. Capture that momentum. Capitalize on it. If the fans embrace this, man, it could get super hot again. And that, here's the funny thing. Everybody thinks I'm going to go, that's horrible news for AEW. They could kill them and put them out of business. I disagree. Do you know what I think can happen? If WWE gets hot, it has to do that old saying about boats, Myron.
Yes.
Rising tides, baby. I think they'll all benefit from it, even though I think, because you know what will have to happen? AEW will up their game too.
Well, we're sitting here recording this. It's 4:30 on Monday, and I am looking forward to Raw like I've never looked forward to a Raw before, because of so many unknowns and variables, so many different things. Who knows what's going to happen? Aren't they at MSG tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. How poetic is that? The new era starts at MSG.
How devastating was it to know that they said that Vince is not going to be there's no, that had to kill him. And listen, for whatever, leave it alone. That it, for him not to make the match 1 week, he couldn't make it from Friday to Monday. Listen, it is what it is, right?
Vince did what was best for the company.
Sure he did.
That's the final thing.
Yeah.
That's the final say on all of this.
And listen, when we wrap up, Myron, I'll give you even a punchline why I think that's even more accurate than most people would even believe. So let's ask you this. we've talked about like all these other companies. Like this is going to be a huge opportunity and a huge challenge. Because here's the thing: people are going to move in and out now. You're going to see. I think you're going to see some movement with talents. Let's ask this when we talk about the other companies, and before it'll segue into our next topic of conversation. First thing is, somebody asked me. Justin shot me a message and said, "Do you think now with Triple H in charge, are we going to see some of this whole Forbidden Door stuff crack? Are they, is WWE going to be willing to work with New Japan or WWE, or AEW or blah 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 Impact? Name. My take was this: people don't like my answer when I said it because I don't know if he did or not. I'm teasing. I know what he thought. Why? They don't need those other companies. Now, could they? Sure. Do they need to? No. There's a huge difference there.
Yeah. You're old enough to remember the Pepsi challenge. Remember? Okay. Coke never did a Coke challenge.
No.
Pepsi was the number 2 soda man. And they wanted to let you try Pepsi and blind test Pepsi versus Coke so that you would try Pepsi. And they could. It was a commercial promotion series they ran.
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
You just tangent with that question. You know what I used to ask?
What's that?
Who the hell has such shitty taste buds that they couldn't tell the difference?
Exactly.
I can go ahead and tell you this. Part of my problem was I drank enough Cokes and Pepsis I could tell you the freaking difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you Coke tastes better than Pepsi.
I don't even drink Pepsi products. Except maybe a Diet Dr. Pepper occasionally if my tummy's upset.
And people get mad when I argue them. I worked for PepsiCo, by the way. I worked for Taco Bell for years. Dr. Pepper's not a Pepsi product. Technically, They own their own company.
That's right. You're correct. So I don't even like any Pepsi product.
Exactly. Mountain Dew.
But,
oh, shit. This is mid-show. I'm going to tangent from hell. We just said it. And okay. This doesn't happen on set. This is the most unprofessional thing I think I've ever done, and I'm going to get a million messages for this. I saw a TikTok video while I was uploading something the other day, Myron, where somebody said this redneck thing where they took a Miller Lite and fucking dumped Mountain Dew in it and said it was the greatest tasting thing on the planet.
What the fuck?
And you know what happened to me? I messaged somebody and somebody goes, "Yeah, you should try that. That's fucking good." And I was like, okay.
No.
I'm on a low carb, low calorie, no sugar thing. So give me till I'll try that in the fall when football season gets here. I'm going to try it. If anybody's tried it, Hanson, Hold My Beer Hanson, I swear has got to be the guy who's probably done this.
No.
Please message me and tell me, does this taste good or not? Because I
got to know. Why would you do that?
I don't know. And I'm so sorry. That is probably, like I said, the most unprofessional podcasting I think I've ever done. That thought popped into my head, and I could not resist telling everybody about it.
I pour a little Diet Coke and some bourbon, but I'm not going to pour a Mountain Dew.
They take the whole bottle.
That's just shitty Corona. That's all that is.
Maybe. I swear everybody swears by it. So anyway, now let's get into the next.
I fucking hate the internet.
Hanson, I'm counting on you to tell me how that is. So the future of WWE going forward with, Vince McMahon. So what do we...
I had a point behind my analogy, by the way.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Before we move on.
WWE doesn't need it, like you were saying. Everybody else could use the pop collaborating with WWE would get. Pepsi could use the pop. Coke don't need the pop. WWE is fine. They're going to be fine. They don't need you, and they don't need your content.
They don't need the business... But here's the part that I chuckled when I said this. Now I'll tell you my punchline to that. They could use the goodwill. They could use... No, listen, what I mean by that. In this transition, even if it's just a one-off, like, hey, this isn't going to be normal, but we're going to do something out of the... Because, look, they're not... Working with AEW, because listen, clearly if one thing AEW's established, he's putting his guys over. And that's not a knock. Dude, I 100% would have done the same thing, so we're not going down that rabbit hole. But my thing is, Tony Khan has showed his track record with putting his guys over everybody. That's why you can't work with AEW. But now, give me an Impact storyline. They already done a little bit of business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
with
think
Mickey
there's a
James.
possibility there. And I just think it shows that, like, hey, this isn't the past. This is the new regime and a new era, and we're always willing to listen. We're not saying we're going to do it, but we'll listen. That was kind of what I was going with.
Just have Titus O'Neil read to children somewhere. That'll be good enough. Let's not talk about AEW and WWE crossing over.
Yeah.
So where are we going next?
So the future of the company, that's kind of where we're going next. And that's kind of, and look, everybody like, hey, and I know you referenced the stock, and what it was my response when you said, hey, Nick, the stock was up. What did I say?
Of course it is.
Well, I went, yeah, I know. Trust me, I looked this morning.
I mean, a 7% stock increase is nothing to sneeze
Listen,
at.
guys, company's going to be fine from that perspective. I do. But however, Myron, look, we've been banging this drum. We've been banging this
How
drum.
did we get to the point that all this happened where Vince McMahon stepped down? How did we get to this point? And to me, the best answer is they're preparing for sale, and they had an investor going through their books.
Yeah. Somebody was doing due diligence, and that's how the stuff became uncovered. Otherwise, why is anybody going back through 16 years of, because that's what the first one was, right? It was 2006. So 16 years ago, somebody was going through books and noticed that this money, whatever. So my take is that the sale is imminent. And I was talking to somebody else, friend of the show, and we were discussing it, and it was like, oh, well, I think before, within 3 years, this deal's done. And I'm like, dude, it ain't going to be that long. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the TV rights negotiations are next year that take effect the following. So I think 2023 is when they actually negotiate, and 2024 is when they go into motion. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I think that's if my memory serves me correct.
So basically, you're telling me that a year from now, there will be a sale within a year.
Yeah, I think literally the pieces of this puzzle were all in motion, and I think the whole investigation became because of that. And by the way, I'm not going into my conspiracy theory. Not here. Look, I did a whole thing behind the paywall. Sign up and go there. I literally had a whole conspiracy theory of how I think it got exposed, and I even named who I thought did it. There you go. I think how do we say this? I think the biggest thing we're going to find out is basically, in my opinion, for the future, is how big, are the fans really that fickle and full of it, right? Because I addressed it earlier. We've said for years, this is what we want. Triple H, Stephanie, running the company, everything will be hunky-dory, rainbows and sunshine.
You can't complain now.
You can't. Mm-mm. Oh, by the way, you're also, you addressed it earlier. The rumors are Kevin Dunn's going to probably be on his way out. So the whole production thing. Now, here's the thing. I will agree to this. Raw still, and Bischoff points it out, and once he pointed it out, I can't unsee it. And that's what cracks me up about when you listen to some of these podcasts, right? He talked about how essentially the production's the same as it was 20 years ago. Like the way it's shot, the way it's looked. It's it's all pretty much the same. You know what's crazy? AEW doesn't change either, really. So, tomato. But if Kevin Dunn does leave, then I think there's that opens the door for some production changes. I think the look, the visual look of the product. And I only disagree with that because here's the messed up part. And I dig all the CGI graphics that they do. My wife hates them because she's always like, Roman Reigns doesn't look like that. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but that's blah blah blah. But look, I mean, so if he leaves, maybe the production changes. Triple H is now, he's going to have the opportunity to build his roster, right? This is, I think, how long do you give him? Do you give him a year? Does he get 2? Does he get 18 months? Does he get what is the acceptable window? That's a question I would love to hear some fans answer, because I want to put some timetables down because I want to know. Like, I thought Stephanie, for the longest time, I always thought that she was the one to run that company, like, long term, after Vince, by the way. So those two at the helm, do you think, let me ask you this, and then this is the question I wanted to ask you, Myron. So you probably want to brace yourself. How long do the fans really give them to make the changes and make them happy?
About 9:30 tonight.
You think if Raw sucks, that the fans are like, all right, I'm done. They
Oh yeah,
fucking suck. Terrible.
They're gonna write it off. If they're not perfect by 9:30 tonight, the internet's gonna be full of people bitching. Well, goddamn, Vince is gone, and we thought this would be perfect. Well, no.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to tell you sometimes about the shit I read. I sometimes I don't post things about wrestling because the wrestling fans just go in there and just eviscerate each other with nasty comments about all kind of other stuff. It's like, guys, we're talking about pretend fighting in your underpants.
Right.
Why did this turn into something that instills so much hatred in people? Why are people so picky? Why do people just tear it apart? Right now you're being given the WWE on a silver platter of everything you've ever wanted. Does Tony Khan become the bad guy now? Oh, he doesn't communicate with John Gresham. Tony Khan.
I mean, but here's the thing, Myron, because and this is why I tell people, like, okay, you might want to slow down and give it some time. We talked about it. We've hinted at it. Comcast, NBC, Universal, for how long have we said, like, they have to be the one who buys this company? They buy it within the next year, my assumption.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I'm human. I could, who knows? Disney could be like, we want the brand, and blam, throw down God knows how much money. But I still think it's NBC Universal because I was telling somebody today. I said, listen, they still owe, what, $800 million on the contract for Peacock? Something like that. What's $4 billion? Like, you're going to save yourself the money that you're not going to pay for Peacock, for the Peacock deal. You're paying content to be on USA for Raw. Like, come on. I mean, stretch that out over 5 years. How much does it really cost you?
That's not a bad point, Nick. You're in control now. If you want to have the wrestlers out there wearing like tights that look like NASCAR drivers' jackets with sponsorships all over them, who knows? I can't see where this is going if it's not going to them.
If it's the main reason I say them is part 2 of this before we move on to wrap it up, is because streaming services are struggling, and I know because they're losing. And here's one of the challenges: people don't understand the positive feedback WWE gets from Peacock. Because WWE does something. And by the way, it's also kind of the same analogy for ratings, for TV, which I'm like, whatever. 52 weeks a year, USA and Fox are getting content week after week.
Brand new content.
It's brand new content.
No reruns.
No reruns. And here's the other thing. I was just speaking to a friend of the show this morning who was like, yeah, man, I think I'm going to binge watch this on Netflix. I think I'm going to be done for about 6 months. So they're going to lose him for 6 months. If you're a WWE fan and you watch the premium live events, guess what you can't really do?
Unsubscribe.
You can't really get rid of Peacock because you're going to have a pay-per-view or pay PLE every month, essentially, right? So you got to keep it. And that's what my wife always jokes about. She's like, well, we can't really get rid of Peacock, can we? I'm like, no. And considering they saved me $5 a month because I paid for the adverts and screw it. Because they don't run ads during pay.
Oh, they don't? Jesus, I'm buying the full thing.
No, you get now. I do have to sit through the shitty commercials when I'm watching. Like I started the Sami Zayn Broken Skull session. You get commercials in those.
I hate Sami Zayn. Jesus
it's actually
Christ.
Very entertaining up to this point. You should check it out. But the PLEs, they just run just like a regular, like when you're watching it. So why? I mean, I'm like, why am I paying the extra $60 a year? I'm like, because that's primarily, let's be honest, that's what we watch, right? The PLEs on Peacock.
Well, that's what I watch on Peacock. Yeah. The rest of it's for the girlfriend to watch,
right?
Because she uses all those stupid shows she likes,
right?
And
so I think they end up in, Comcast ends up owning it. That's my opinion, and it's only my opinion, and we'll find out if I'm incorrect. But that's just, and now look, if it gets into a bidding war and Disney outbids them, awesome. But I still think at the end of the day, it's in because they have every reason to buy them, and they have every bit of the assets and so forth and so on. So
I don't know if we can put my entire damn childhood on one streaming service.
It is.
Think about it. I've already got Star Wars and Marvel Comics on one streaming service. Yeah. So when I go over there, I'm like, whoa, wow. But if I put wrestling on it too, it'd just be too much now.
Why? Because
It would just be too much. I know, but I mean, it would be overwhelmed every time I logged in.
That is true. So listen, we're gonna sum it all up. Like I get it. We tried to have this conversation more about like what it means without Vince McMahon. It's not about like, hey, he did this or he didn't do this. Because what's the old saying, Myron? I don't fucking know. I wasn't there.
No.
I'm sure at some point it will come out. I don't
Vince
know how
was a
with
rich
NDAs,
man
but it would.
Who was surrounded with attractive women, and he could buy all the pussy he wanted. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And he did. I'm not justifying his actions. I don't think it's right.
Well, listen, because we want to be clear. I want to be clear here. If it was consensual and then it was money just to be quiet about it so it wouldn't be exposed, see Chris Jericho's comments, insert.
Yeah.
If something illegal or, coercing and, or pressuring,
yes,
that's a different story.
Yes.
But my whole thing is let that play out and let's kind of see what happens. I'm usually that way about everything. How about we get all of the details and then we figure it out versus jumping to the conclusions?
Will wrestling end without Vince, Nick?
No.
Is it over? Are we going to see the last episode of Raw tonight?
No.
It's wrestling. They're just going to say goodbye, guys, and wrestling's gone without Vince.
No, I don't think so. I think ultimately, Eric Bischoff put it best when he addressed it this way. Vince McMahon has always done what's best for WWE. Always. And what he felt, let me back up. He has always done what he felt was best for WWE. When Hogan, did him over, he still brought him back. Warrior did him over, he brought him back. I mean, he would always go back. He hired Eric Bischoff, for crying out loud.
If he could make money off of it, Vince did the right thing for him.
If it was the right thing for the company, yes. He very eloquently also put forward something that I never really thought about it, because somebody said, well, when it was the steroid trial, he wouldn't back down and he pushed right through it. And Bischoff brought up something that I never thought of until when he said it. That's because when he did that, it was a private company. He didn't have to answer to anybody but his family. Now he has to answer to shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing for the business right now was probably, most likely, was for Vince to go away.
Yeah.
Now, because here's what the only thing that baffles me. People don't grasp the concept of he still owns a shit ton of stock.
Yeah.
He's still going to make a ton of money from WWE.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another, he's going to make a ton of money from them.
Yeah.
He's just not the man on the top and on paper, right? If a co-CEO is his daughter, his son-in-law is the head of creative and talent relations, I find it very hard to understand, to accept the fact that at some point, because they said he's going to be available during the transition period, Vince is always going to be available to those two.
Yeah.
Tell me there's not going to be an occasional, hey, Dad, what would you do in this scenario? What do you think? It's going to happen, right? It's got to.
What happens to Vince now, Nick? What does he do? Is he still going to be like armchair quarterbacking? Is he still going to be the guy that's obsessed with the product? Does he take up golf?
See, look, you've always heard he doesn't vacation. He doesn't have hobbies. He doesn't, so what does he do? I don't know. I have two dreams that I kid you not. We joked about one. We posted it and shared it, and we had one that made me laugh. I had a dream, and this was the other one. One was, you're right. If there's not a Conrad Thompson, Vince McMahon podcast, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to be disappointed because it's not going to happen. But I just think I got to have it, and it's got to be Conrad. Because for the record, I think I've said this, maybe I can't remember in the past. You like Jeff Jarrett, you like Eric Bischoff's podcast, you do notice the common thread there, right?
Yeah.
They're all great, and they're great storytellers. But they all mutually have one straw that stirs those drinks. And that's Conrad Thompson. That's why it's got to be him, by the way. The other one, I want Vince McMahon to get social media active. I want you to troll the shit out of people on Twitter. Can you imagine that? Like, Raw's on, AEW's on, but he's just like, blah, 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 and he's just trolling the shit. That would be funny. To me.
I would enjoy that.
Okay, I kid you. One night, I don't want to see it for long, but one night it would just be funny to me. Somebody hack his Twitter and somebody just take over and act like you're him and just freaking rash. Like a week's worth of wrestling, like all of it. AEW, WWE, Impact. That sucks. That, just on and on. Come on, that would be gold. I would love for that. That would be just money to me. So anyway,
I'd love to extend an invitation for him to come on this show as a guest one time.
You're always welcome. It'll never happen, but you're always welcome. But yeah, that's my thing. But if he does, let me tell you this: if he does, Myron, it's going behind the paywall on YouTube, over on the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. That shit's not going up for free. It'll be there first, I promise you, at Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you like it, subscribe it, join it, turn your notifications on, all that good stuff. Become a member because we are doing stuff weekly, extras, and throwing it in there. But listen, I know some people just are they're podcast listeners. They're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, and more. Subscribe, 5-star rating, and review. That means the world to us. It really does. Just,
Definitely.
Let everybody know, and listen, if you really want to help the show, support the sponsors. Athletic Greens, Slowpoke Toys, check them all, go on there, buy stuff. Anytime you see us, like we're recommending, but we look, by the way, I think I showed you in the ad, I showed you the cool stuff they sent us, for the Slowpoke Toys, the Indy Wrestling Collectibles. AG1s, I drink it. I told you, I put pictures up on our social media before. All of that good stuff. I mean, I just support the vendors. I'm trying to really do Lipson in the past, like those type of things where we're always like, look, it's generally somebody we support. That's kind of what we try to do. So, so before we get out of here, because we're almost running long, I always say we can't go an hour. We can never go an hour. And I look at the clock and I say, oh my God, we're getting close. So Myron had some scheduling changes, and that's why we're recording on a Monday. But hey, listen, it's not his fault; it's mine too. I'm going to make some personal schedule changes as well. So what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to move the day that we record to either, because we do it now either like we were doing Tuesday, Wednesday, now it's Monday, Wednesday. We're sliding it back even more. So now we're thinking Sunday, Monday. Monday will probably be the most realistic day of all of them, typically. But we may do Sundays if we have the opportunity. I want to ask the fans, the people that listen. We were debating, is it Tuesday, Wednesday? If we record it, what's the best day? Because we don't want to fall too far behind. We definitely are going to move it. It's not going to be Thursday anymore. We're going to move it. It'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday. I like Tuesday just because, but Wednesday, sure. We just feel like what we're going to do is we're going to have the week of wrestling, and on Sunday, we can wrap a bow on it, Sunday, Monday. We would have seen the week's worth of wrestling. We would have been to our indie shows that we go to over the weekend, and we can just knock everything out in those days, and that's kind of my commitment, and that's what we're going to do. So I'd love to know what they think. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Twitter @tappedoutpod, so forth. You guys know all the Twitter stuff and all the social media stuff. Hit us up and let us know. Tuesdays or Wednesdays, which is the better day for you. If we record on Sunday or Monday, I'm still in Tuesday. That's just me. But I know the people behind the paywall are like, hey, but you're going to get it early. You'll still get it early. It's just going to be a matter of time, because our other commitment was we're going to try to record Monday morning. So at least hopefully by noon it's up. So you would have had, and if I do it on Tuesday, Myron, what if I make it Tuesday at noon? So, you know what I mean? So there's still the Patreon, the YouTube
Patreon.
People, those people will still have
drive
about
to work
24 hours.
And listen to it. Yeah.
And I'll just release everything out at noon on Tuesday versus 6 a.m. on Thursday. So if you like that, let us know. That's the big change we were talking about earlier. We are going to change the dates of release and the times and the recordings and all that good stuff. That's it, man. Just lots of stuff going on. And, look, lots to wrap up and wrap our heads around. And guess what, Myron? I got a feeling it ain't over yet.
Nope.
More to come.
Nope.
Yeah, more changes to come.
And until next time, wrestling fans, that's it.
That's all we got right now. So if that's all I got, and that's all you got, man, what's the old saying, brother?
It's time to tap out.